Hello everyone, Antoni here, and today I'm going to be talking about another production of Magic Flute which I've seen last night at the Staatsoper im Schillertheater. Now, this was actually the first time I actually ventured into this theater, and let me just tell you, I really loved being there, and for the most part, it was really beautiful. And I've heard a lot of amazing things about this theater, like the fact that Daniel Barenboim, who is well known around the world as a great conductor, is the general music director of this opera house, and that the intendant is Jürgen Flimm. For those of you who don't know who Jürgen Flimm is, he's actually well known for a lot of his productions, well, around Europe and probably some parts of the USA, for his productions of Wagner and Mozart operas and many other great composers in general. And for those of you who want to see some pictures that I've taken of the Staatsoper, then I have two links in Facebook that you can check out. So feel free to click on the links right below this video, and happy browsing. And for those of you who haven't really ventured into this opera house yet, I have to say you have to really see an opera in the Staatsoper in Schillertheater. I highly recommend it, especially to those who are music fans, opera fans, theater fans, or even students. This will be an amazing experience for all of you, and especially for the students because you actually also get 50% discount if you purchase a ticket. But a word of caution, tickets at the Staatsoper im Schillertheater sell out really fast. So my recommendation would have to be, if you really want to see an opera and you want to get the best price possible, then I have to say, like, buy a ticket a few days before the actual performance. I'd have to say, um, or even buy the most affordable one available, and probably give yourself like 3 days to buy the tickets before the actual performance. So yes, buy them in advance so that it would be not sold out and you can actually enjoy the opera that you really want to see. So that's basically my word of caution. Tickets sell out fast, so you best buy them right away. And for the most part, I highly recommend that you also see an opera or a concert in this very opera house. You will not regret it, and it will be an amazing experience for those of you who are touring around Berlin or who are currently living in Berlin. Now that that's out of the way, let's get on with a review. Now I have this little booklet here with me, so that just in case I forget any names or mispronounce any names, then I have this as my guide. The conductor was Wolfram-Maria. The production was by August Everding. The set design was by Fred Berndt. The costumes were by Dorothea Uhrmacher. The lights were handled by Franz Peter David. The chorus master was Frank Vlade. And the choreographer was Roland Gavlik. So let's get the production out of the way first. This production of Magic Flute is a very traditional production, meaning it really stays true to the libretto. And I have to say, it was really beautiful. This is actually a lot better than the production I saw at the Deutsche Oper, and for great reasons. This production was so full of color, so full of life. It was not trying to be a Regie Theater. It was the Magic Flute in one of its purest forms. Oh, sure, it doesn't have the grandiosity of David McVicker's Magic Flute production, which is well known in Covent Garden, but it's a very traditional production. And all I have to say is that the costumes that every character has worn, beautiful. Very, very beautiful. And like I said, this is a very traditional production of Magic Flute, and the costumes were extremely gorgeous. I'd like to also note a few humorous things about this production, and they mainly come from the animals. Now, aside from them um, being part of Tamino's aria Wie stark ist nicht dein Zauberton, where they find themselves like being enchanted by Tamino's playing of the magic flute, they also serve as servants of Sarastro, like the two lions. Like when Papageno tries to touch one of the lions after Pamina's aria Achechfus, the lions actually like roar at them. But obviously, the animals weren't really animals. They were just actors in animal costumes. So yeah. So basically, in the lion scene, you may think that they were actually statues, but oops, they actually come to life. And another cute thing is that the hippo comes in to serve Papageno his wine before his aria Ein Mädchen oder Weibchen. And at the same time, during his aria, the hippo and the jackal begin to dance to his aria along with the other priests. And I thought it was really hilarious. I actually found myself um, chuckling at that scene. And the serpent in the very beginning of the opera, there wasn't just one serpent, but there were three serpents, and they were breathing fire. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, this is actually pretty intimidating. This is actually a lot more intimidating than the one I saw at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. But still, the fact that there were three serpents that breathed fire out of their nostrils was quite intimidating. I have to say, I actually loved this production a lot more than the production I saw at the Deutsche Oper. So yeah, this is actually a very beautiful, very enchanting production. So for those of you who haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend that you go see it right away. So now that that production stuff is out of the way, let's go to the singers. The Tamino for the evening was Stefan Rugamer. I've heard his name a lot of times, and I've actually seen like a few clips of him on YouTube. And here's what I have to say about his performance as Tamino. It's really good. It's pretty good. His voice was actually really great all throughout, save for a few wobbles here and there, but that's just a minor issue. However, there is one thing I didn't really care for, and that was when, during his entrance scene, zu Hilfe, he was standing there and like throwing his bow, and he just basically sings. I mean, it would be really nice if we could just see him running around during the course of his singing. That would actually be a lot more. That would actually add a lot more life to the scene because Tamino's life is in danger, not just because of one serpent, but three serpents. That would actually make a lot more sense. So yeah, his acting is good, save for that one um, instance where he was standing there after being pursued by all three serpents, but that's just a minor issue. So overall, I have to say that Mr. Rugama is in really great shape. He was in great shape all throughout. And he actually had a great tone, despite a few hiccups here and there. So he was a really good Tamino. The Papageno was sung by a Turkish baritone by the name of Gyula Orendt. So I bet you all know that Papageno is probably one of the most likable characters in opera. And for those who really have to pull off a great Papageno has to not only be a great singer, but also be a great actor. And Mr. Orendt was actually great in this part. But still, the best Papageno in recent years still has to be John Chest. But Mr. Orendt as Papageno was really good. I actually love the timbre of his voice. He almost sounds like a bass baritone, and it's a really virile voice. And it's not too light, not too heavy, but just right. And I could see a really bright future with his singing and with his career in general. He's still quite young, so yeah, give him time and he will really shine. But he's already shown well, so a great big plus for him. The Pamina was Anna Prohaska, who in recent years has become one of my most favorite singers. Not just because of her lovely lyrical voice, but also her love of um, heavy metal and new wave music, which I think is really kind of cool. And the fact that she is currently living in Berlin is quite interesting to know. All I have to say about Miss Prohaska as Pamina is that she was easily one of the best performers in this opera. I really love the quality of her voice. It's light, it's very lyrical, and frankly, I've never really seen her as Papagena, so I can't really compare her performances in that role. But I will say this about her Pamina: it is absolutely dazzling. Not only did she look the part, being all young and lithe and slender and very youthful, but she had an amazing technique in terms of her voice. There were no gimmicks. She's not really one of those super high singers, but she is an honest singer with great technique and great stage presence. Though the one minor issue with Prohaska's Pamina was during the Queen of the Night aria, in which she was like fidgeting here and there. I thought that was overdoing it, but still, that's just a minor issue. Another interesting thing that Anna Prohaska did as Pamina was that she, during her scene with the three boys, she tries to find her way to kill herself with a dagger. It's like she tries to slit her throat. She tries to slit her wrist. I thought that was kind. I thought that was kind of shocking. I mean, let's face it, Pamina was on the verge of depression after thinking that Tamina was going to leave her. So yeah, Anna Prohaska really brought a lot of life and character in Pamina. That she wasn't some damsel in distress, but also a woman who is questioning, like, why does this have to be this way? She's quite curious of why does this have to be this way? What is this whole thing that the initiates and Sarastro have against her own mother, the Queen of the Night? So yeah, basically, Miss Prohaska definitely got herself involved with the drama, and she had such an amazing quality to her voice. So kudos to her, and she really deserved that huge round of applause. So I really wish her the best. Well, if she's watching this video, then I really wish her all the best at what the future has to bring for her. Now we go on to the Queen of the Night of this production, another Anna by the name of Anna Siminska. Now, she has a good voice all throughout, but in her first aria, Oce I didn't really care for her in that aria. I didn't really care for her at all. Basically, there were moments where she was singing a bit too loudly, and there were times that she wasn't really shading her voice well. But yeah, I didn't really care for her first act aria. Though I do care about her when she was singing Der Rache. That's when I thought her voice really came out well. And her high F and her Otzitrinist was not really that audible compared to her Der Rache. So overall, her first act, I didn't really care for her at all. Though in the second act, she caught up quite well. So it was a good performance, but not great. When I think of a singer singing Queen of the Night, I expect her to not only sing the super high notes, but also have an amazing stage presence and also have a, a more mature voice than her own daughter Pamina. After all, she is Pamina's mother after all, so yeah. And she's also quite youthful, which is another plus to any singer who's singing Queen of the Night. I mean, the queen may be Pamina's mom, but she's quite youthful despite her age, so that's a good plus in terms of Miss Siminska as Queen of the Night. Vocally, she does need more work here and there, but in terms of appearance, she was quite good. And now we move on to the Sarastro, which is sung by Jan Martinik. I really love his voice. I find it really, really luscious and deep and gravelly and very virile. He's quite young for his age, being only in his early 30s, but with that type of voice, you almost start forgetting that he's in his early 30s. You almost start thinking he could be in his early 40s. And that's what I really love about the quality of his voice. It's really focused. It's a very focused voice. And his acting, even though he doesn't have that much to do, he makes great use of it. He makes great use of his role as Sarastro, and he puts in a lot of nobility and gravitas to his personality. So that's a really great plus for Mr. Martinik. The Monostatos was Michael Smallwood. I actually heard and saw Michael Smallwood in a production of Abduction of the Seraglio, which I purchased on DVD. And this was live at the Opera House of the Netherlands, the Netherlands Opera House, excuse me. And I actually really like the quality of his voice. It's a very light, lyrical, and lovely voice, and he's also quite athletic to boot. Namely, where the slaves have to pick him up during the scene with Sarastro, Tamino, Pamina, and Papageno, in which Sarastro orders the slaves to give him 77 slashes on the soles of his feet. Then the slaves pick him up, and Mr. Smallwood stays in the tension of his body. And I thought to myself, "Wow, this is quite an amazing feat." And in terms of his acting, I actually think that he's actually quite involved in his character of Monostatos. And his singing is a great asset. Like I said, his voice is a very light, lyrical, and lovely voice, so to say. And it has a beautiful timbre. It has great control, great technique. Where can you go wrong with Mr. Smallwood in this type of role? Sure, Monostatos is supposed to be like an ugly role for tenors. But here, Mr. Smallwood sang Monostatos with finesse, with grace, and with a certain beauty that a lot of other monostratoses can't really seem to sing. So a great kudos to Mr. Smallwood. The Papagena was sung by a young soprano by the name of Sonia Grane. Her acting was really great as an old woman, and her singing as Papagena, beautiful, light, and lovely, and breezy. I could really see an amazing future with Miss Grane, so kudos to her in that role. The three ladies were sung by Kaula Höhn, Annika Schlicht, and Constance Heller. Now, with Miss Höhn as the first lady, I really love the quality of her voice. And I actually love it when a full lyric soprano sings the first lady. It actually sounds a lot better to hear rather than have like a lyric coloratura or a soubrette soprano sing the role of the first lady. Her quality really has a lot of great things about it. It is beautiful, it is lovely, and even though she has sung for many years, the quality of her voice is still there. The second lady was sung by Annika Schlicht. I really love the quality of her voice, so excuse me for having a little cough there, but I really love the quality of Miss Schlicht's voice. She is really young, at only like 25 years old, but I could really see a bright future with her lyric mezzo voice. It's a really great instrument that she used. And Constance Heller, she sang the third lady. I really love her voice as well. And if I put all three voices together, they sound really harmonious. And now we move on to the speaker, who was sung by Raimund Nolte. He makes great use of his small role, and I really love the quality of his voice. So basically, he has an authoritative presence, and his voice was really great all throughout. So kudos to him. And he not only sang the speaker, but he also sang the role of the second priest. Now, he's a lot more different than that of his speaker, and that his second priest was a lot more humorous, a lot more lively, and basically a great comedic foil to the first priest of Jonathan Winnell. And speaking of which, Jonathan Winnell as the first Jonathan Winnell as the first priest, he had a great voice and great presence as well. But there are times when I hear him speak, he doesn't really, it's really obvious that he's not really a German native, but he's actually an American. And you could really see in the way he pronounces a lot of words in the dialogue. But having him as the first armed man, I actually like his voice as well. So yeah, basically, Mr. Winnell in the dual parts of the first priest and the first armed man, they were really good. They were really good. Not really great yet, but really good. And the second armed man was sung by Grigory Shkarupa. He actually overpowers the tenor a little bit, but not by a long shot. I mean, they were still harmonious, but Shkarupa sang a little bit clearer than that of the tenor, Mr. Winnell. And the three boys were sung by the soloists of the Aurelius Sängerknaben. I thought that they were amazing, and they were also very involved with the opera as well, especially in their Seid uns zum zweiten Mal willkommen. At the end of that little trio, they basically run laughing, and it's also quite cute seeing the shenanigans they do. Like during Papageno's Klingen, they play a little jump rope game with the rope that Papageno was supposed to use for killing himself, and I thought that was quite cute. Something interesting to notice that they come in different costumes. Like in the first appearance with Tamino, you see them wearing traditional Egyptian clothing, but in the second time you see them, they wear like more medieval-like clothing. And then in the scenes with Pamina and Papageno, they wear like clothing that's reminiscent to the 19th century or something like that. So all I could say is that they were really amazing as the three boys. Now on to the conductor, Wolfram-Maria. I didn't really care for his conducting at all. There were some parts that were actually pretty good, but his conducting was way too fast for me. It was way too fast in certain areas of the opera, especially that in the overture. The opening chords sounded rushed and not enough adagio to it. They sounded a little bit more allegretto, and I thought that was a I thought that was a little bit of a setback. So yeah, the conducting handled by Mr. Maltich wasn't really the best that I've heard, but there were some speeds that were actually quite um, reasonable for certain arias, especially that of the Queen of the Night aria. It was at an appropriate speed, but as for the other numbers like the overture, Tamino's Bildnis aria, Archischwus, or Isis und Osiris, I thought that they were way too fast. So that's kind of a bit of a setback of this opera. But still, for what it's worth, he does an okay job. It's just that I found it way too fast, way too speedy, and not enough time for um, the orchestra to actually pretty much enjoy the adagio lines of the whole score. And there were also times that the singers, they were actually um, they didn't actually catch their cues, meaning they came in a bit too early. Well, in terms of the singing, not really the acting, but in terms of the singing. So that's all I have to say. Overall, I really enjoyed this production of Magic Flute, more so than the production that was shown in Deutsche Oper. It was a very traditional, beautiful, gorgeous, vivid production, and the singers were great all throughout. Special mention goes to Anna Prohaska as Pamina, Jan Martinik as Zarastro, Gyula Orendt as Papageno, and Stefan Rugamer as Tamino, and also Michael Smallwood as Monostatos. You were all amazing, and I wish you all the best in your future. And even though I found the conducting a little bit too fast, at least in some areas, it was actually quite appropriate. So overall, I enjoyed it. It was a really great night for me, and it was a really great night being at the Staatsoper im Schillertheater. Well, I hope you all enjoy this review, even though I coughed in some areas and even though I burped a little bit. I hope you all enjoy it nonetheless, and have a nice day.